This training session is on the John Deere's Operations Center, focused on setup tools. Today you'll learn everything you need to do to prepare a setup file for your planting season. This recording took place on March 4th, 2021.
So first of all, I'm going to start off in the Deanna Val account, just to show you around the screen here. We'll be using Podolinsky Farms account, which I have access to, permission to use for training purposes from Brad, so which we appreciate. It's nicer to use more relative information than some information Deere's provided. So first thing I want to point out, so this, now you can see where I live. This is my own personal account here. If you've got, there's two different views here. So you've got a map view and a satellite view. I recommend clicking on satellite view. It's much nicer image looking at Google Earth. Just want to go over high level, see the menus changed. I know for many years I've been referring to this little waffle icon that was in the top left-hand corner. That has gone away, and they've made this more user-friendly now, broken it into the different categories. As well, they've provided a brief description on what everything does. So we are going to spend most of our time in the setup tab here. If you're looking for more analyze, please join us next Thursday. We're going to spend more time in the analyze menu and so forth. So this has changed across the top. And primarily it's to match the app. So if you're not using the Operations Center app, then I encourage you to do so. But all of these tabs, these functionalities are in the app as well in a mobile friendly format. So going on the top, you've got your menu items or your tools, okay? Over in the top right-hand corner, I always like to point out this assistance tab. Here you can get the newest release notes, and there is a new release coming in March. How-to videos, which are updated regularly. Contact support, so ability to contact John Deere for additional help. This help documentation is actually really useful. That's where I spend most of my time, because looking for information as opposed to sorting through videos, I find it easier to do keyword searches and look for information that way. And lastly, I just want to point out this feedback tool. So if there's something that you would like changed or added or modified on this platform, they really encourage us to encourage you guys to submit feedback for those requests. They literally do it on a voting system. So the more something is popular or requested, then that's how it gets moved up in the priority list for improvement. So please utilize that tool as much as you need to, okay? If you are set up with multiple organizations, as this account is for me, then you will find that there. These icons haven't changed at all, and neither have the equipment and the fields here, okay? So as you can see, you know, there's on this account, this is just a dummy account. There's a couple of false pieces of equipment as well as fields, which don't mean anything to us here for today. So moving into the setup, we'll just get into the first thing you want to do is set up your team. So I'm going to go into the team here. And a team could be multiple players. It could be us as your dealer. You may have multiple staff members or operators that you want to invite access to, and in doing so, as a staff member, they would have their own username and login. So, you know, you're not worried about password resets, but you can also grant them varying degrees of permission. And the permissions here, it's pretty explanatory. If you go in and you click, if I scroll down here and click edit, it gives you a description of what exactly you're granting them access to. Okay, so make sure that you've got the right permissions for those that you want to. I'm not going to make any changes there. I'm just going to X out of that. As well, you can add a partner. So a partner could be an agronomist or a third party. It gives them the ability, as I'm going to today, go in and help manage Podolinsky Farms, or share, it might be one in particular field file you want to be able to send across into there so that they can manage it or make decisions from it. So very useful to have this set up with anyone you're working on an agronomy level for sure. So now we're going to move into Podolinsky Farms account. The idea at the end of today is that you have the knowledge to be able to go in and set up your setup file for your displays and monitors for this year. When you think of a setup file, what's in your setup file? You've got your equipment with the offsets, you've got your products, you've got your client farm and fields, guidance lines, there may be flags and so forth. So those are the things we're going to cover off today. Starting with equipment. So equipment is this tractor icon here. So as you can see, this farm has quite a bit of equipment listed here. You just expand the different categories to see what's in there, okay? If a piece of equipment has, say, JD Link, so JD Link being the cellular connection, then the piece of equipment will also show up on the map with additional information that's brought in using that telematic connection, okay? And I'm just going to point out the difference between these two tractors here. So both of these tractors have JD Link. Both are sitting at the home farm. We can click on this eye with the circle around it, which when I hover over it says details there. So we click that and we can get more information. Okay, so high level, it gives us some engine hours. It gives us the terminal. This is the actual cellular connection terminal. So this is a 4G connection here. It tells us what subscription is on it. So JD Link Connect is the fully subscribed connection that enables a wireless data transfer. Other tools in here as well. You can go in and analyze the machine further, which we're not going to do today, but there's lots of other information that comes through here, depending on what machine it is, fuel usage, idle times, and so forth. So depending on how detailed you want to analyze your machines, the information is in there. We've got a maintenance manager, so you could program maintenance alerts based on hour usage from factory recommendations or personalized plans, so that's an option as well. But one thing I just wanted to point out on this tractor is there's actually no display connected. So what that means is there's no, the 2630 that is utilized in that tractor doesn't have an additional cable called an Ethernet cord that's connecting it from the display to the cellular connection, whether it be the corner post or directly to the cellular connection, which is the communication cable that's required so that we can see that display. Okay, I'll just show you on this tractor here, it does have that. And the reason I can tell that is I've got this little icon here, which is the remote display access icon. So this is what allows us to communicate with that display so that we'd be able to view this display and help walk someone through a screen. Something you guys can do amongst yourselves as well. And then when I go into the details, I can see not only that there's a display, but I can also see what software it's on and so forth. So that's an easy way to know if it needs a software update or not. While we're in here, we'll talk about offsets. So everyone knows that, you know, how fun it is to go and measure offsets each year and make sure it's in the monitor correctly. So by setting it up in here in the computer first, you can create that starting point that's not going to change every year. So Here, it gives you all the same offsets that you would see in the display. And to edit, you just simply edit. And then you can go in and make your changes, okay? So as you can see, they have not done this here, and theirs is in the monitor still. So if that's your case, you've got the offsets already in the monitor, what I recommend is going out, just take a picture of those offsets on using your phone, come back here, and then set up what I would call like the master setup file and make sure they're in here correctly. So we've taken a look at existing equipment. When you're setting up your display, you know you need both a piece of equipment as well as an implement, okay? And when I take a look at Brad's list here, I can see that he's got a sprayer, but I don't see a boom, and that's often an implement that's forgotten. And if you don't have a boom, then you may not be able to add a boom in the display. It just may not give you boom as an option. So you want to make sure you add that in here. So we'll demonstrate how to add a piece of equipment. So just this little plus symbol up here to the right of the menu or list. Okay. Not all fields are mandatory. Some are drop-down menus. So this is a John Deere boom. In this case, it's an implement, and I'm going to look for boom. I know it's 120 foot, and I'm going to add that. Now, one thing to note, anytime you add an implement, it always comes in with a 30-foot everything. So we need to go in and modify offsets. And I'm just going to edit the width down here. So oftentimes I get asked, why isn't there a catalog of everything in here and with all the correct measurements? I agree, that would be fabulous, but there just isn't. So we do have to go in and change that. So now we should have a boom. And yes, the picture doesn't line up, but at least when he creates a setup file and he inputs it into that display, he will have a boom as an option to select when he's setting up the implement tab there. If you've got a lot of extra equipment on here that you no longer need, there's this three lines here with check marks beside them. When you click that, you can check. So I could check this off, and then this trash can shows here, and I can delete the piece of equipment. So I'm not sure, Brad, if you're on the call, but I've added the boom, and I'm not going to delete it because you need it. So we're just going to leave that there. But that's how you would clean up this list if you needed to. Okay. So that's usually equipment's the first thing you set up. Next, everybody always wants to set up fields. Now, if you've uploaded all of your data, and many of you have gone through this already, there's probably a lot of data cleanup you have to do. And this example we're using is no different. So I'm going to show you how to do some of that. So we're going to look at the field here that's around the dealership. And I'm just going to narrow it down. I know that they call this the shop. It's been called that as long as I can remember. And right now I've got 2 fields that show up as the shop, okay? I've already done my research. I've looked at this field here that says J, and probably somebody threw something in the monitor just to get going, or was, monkeying around setting something up. But there's actually no guidance lines or operational data associated to it. So, and I know that because when I click on it, I've gone into Field Analyzer. And it'll say no operational maps are found. So there's no documentation associated with that field. If I go into land, which is where it's the tool where you manage boundaries, guidance lines, flags, and there's no related assets for this field, okay? So if I go back to that field, and I'm just gonna go back to the map to find it again. Similar to equipment, there's the 3 lines here with the check marks. I'm going to check it, and I'm going to check the box that shows up beside that field, and I'm going to hit this little filing cabinet. And if you see when I hover over it, it says archive. So you're not actually deleting anything. So if you make a mistake, we could always retrieve it from archive. But now I've got one field that's shop, and that's what we should have. So there's many ways to get to the pieces that you need. So I showed you how to get to analyzer and land by clicking on this on the map. These are also, so land, here's the other location you can find land as well. Okay, so just want to point that out. There's usually more than one way to get to where you want to go in here. So you can see on this field, it was last planted in wheat in September of 2020, and what the acreage is. I click on this icon here. Okay, I can see if there were any prescriptions associated to this field in the past, in which case, in this case, there have not been. If I wanted to merge it with any fields, I could. So say that field that I deleted did actually have data associated with it, I could have merged the two instead. And if I have merged any in the past, I can unmerge it. So it looks like there has been some data cleanup done, and some fields have been merged into this one just yesterday or just today, because they were geospatially the same field. So there's a menu up here as well. This is just a third location where you can get to your field analyzer or that land tool that I'm going to show you here shortly. Okay. So just going back to the general tool, I'm going to click on land here. All right. So this is everything associated with the field shop. This black menu, anytime you see this black menu bar, this is just a filtering tool. It's just to help you search and narrow down into, say, the field, or just the boundaries, or just the guidance lines. But in this case, I'm just going to look at this field, so I don't need to do much filtering. I'm just going to hide that. If I wanted to pull that tab back out, I could. And same with this one here. I could hide this tab as well to make my map view larger. So here you can see everything on the map that's associated with this field. And it's very confusing because I don't know what any of these are called. So there's an eye right here, as in an eyeball. So if you click that, it hides everything. And you can see now there's a red line going through all of the eyeballs for all the assets associated with this field. If I click this one, I show everything because I'm on the shop, like the main heading, or I can look at them individually. So the first thing I notice is this field has 3 boundaries. One, which is active. So if I were to create a setup file right now, this is the boundary that would come across. Not all 3, just this one. You can only have 1 active boundary, and you can keep them all, or you can delete them. So to look at them, you click on the eyeball. Okay, so that's what that one looks like. That's what that one looks like. And that's what that one looks like. And I mean, I can tell it's an old boundary because we've expanded the dealership into the field, and this was created prior to that expansion. But I'm going to let Brad do the cleanup on this. I'll just show you how we can. So while we're on this, there's some, if you hover over boundary number 3, there's some other icons that show up. So I could archive it. I could merge it with another field. So this is useful if you have two adjacent parcels and then you want to start farming them together. You could merge it with another boundary. You could create a copy of it as well. Scenario might be you wanted to create a new farm and field and you want to create a copy into that field. You could do that. Details here. So if I click details, then I get a menu that pops up here and some information I can edit. So if I click edit, now I have the ability to make changes to this boundary. So first of all, I can decide if it is the active or not the active, okay? I can also choose to edit the shape. So now I've got this little hand icon that showed up and I can click on it. And all these dots are movable. And I recommend zooming in when you're making changes. So if you've cleared out a bush or expanded a bit of in one area, then you could make changes. So this is something here that could be cleaned up. This needs to be brought over. The different circles mean different things as well. If you need to create more circles, so the white ones you can move. These ones are locked into place, the lighter colored ones. But I believe if you click on them, then you get additional points. So sometimes if it was a straight line, but you needed to make more of a curve, you may need to make additional points to do that. As I said, I'm not going to make changes to this. I just wanted to show you that the capability is there, okay? You can rename the boundary as well. You can also create additional boundaries. So you could, if you had a water hole in here that you didn't want to plant on, you could create an internal boundary within this that was passable or impassable. We could add those as well. So there's quite a bit of editing you could do here if you chose to. So I'm just going to cancel out of that and discard any changes so I don't mess up the data here in this field. You could also, so knowing that this boundary is out of date, there's other ways to create new boundaries. We can, this plus symbol, I might have clicked that too fast, create new up here. So anything associated within the land tool can be created, whether it's a new field, so a new field you're planning to farm this year. You may want to create a flag, boundary, or a guidance line track. So if we select a boundary, there's different ways, a couple of different ways you can create boundaries. You can either draw a new one using points and Google Earth as your image, or you can do it from a previous operation, in which case, if he had his seeding data in here, so I'm going to bring it back down to the shop, click next. So if I wanted to redraw a new boundary for this field using the wheat plant from September 25th of 2020, this is what it would look like. And you click save. And this looks wonky because two eyeballs are being shown right now, for lack of better words. And so that would be probably more appropriate of a boundary for him. It also converted it to active, which is great. So now this would be the boundary that would come across in my setup file. If I wanted to delete these old boundaries, I'm simply archiving. And then if I did archive, I could unarchive and bring it back if I deleted something I didn't want to, and I switched this toggle to all the archive stuff. So there are some things that we have archived in here already. We'll move on to guidance lines. So all the same is true with guidance lines here. So we've got a lot of the same editing features. These are all the different guidance lines that you can see now. I'm not sure. Many of these are very old. That looks like a nice guidance line, but probably similar to what many of you have either dealt with or are dealing with now. You've got lots of guidance lines because many operators have created every time they go in the field. And the #1 name for a guidance line is the number 1. And it looks like in this case, when 1 was used, they used 2 ones. So this is a very good example of, data cleanup and prime use of this tool. So if we go into details here, we can edit that. If it's a guidance line you want to keep, you can rename it to more appropriate names. So you can see it there. You can move it around. You can create new guidance lines by pointing and clicking. I know some will just simply start with a roadside and create a guidance lines and then fix it when they get to the field if it's a new field and they've got an operator that they want a starting point with. You can change headings. So if you wanted to use your plant, an existing guidance line, but you wanted to create a new guidance line with, say, a 3-degree difference in headings, you could do that and call it something different. Again, I'm not going to make changes here, but I just wanted to show you that you do have the capability to edit guidance lines. Same thing, you can click them and archive them and narrow it down to what actually loads into the monitor going into spring. The last thing here is field notes. So field notes is actually, it's truly only compatible with Gen 4 displays, but whether you're making field notes on your phone on the app, in the monitor, or in here, they should all be syncing together, okay? So whether there's different types of, we'll just add one here. So sorry, I should be using the term flag. So different types of flags that you can create, whether it's an area, a line, or a point, and the same is true in the monitor as well. So one of the next pieces of a setup file are your products. So the only place you can access it is here. So up on the setup tool. So we're going to go into products now. And one disclosure statement I will make is if you are going to use products, make sure you fully use it. When this tool first came out, what we ran into was everyone made their setup file in the spring going into plant for corn and soybeans. So they loaded all their varieties and so forth. And then when they went to go harvest wheat, wheat wasn't even an option in the drop-down menu. So just make sure you add at least one variety of every crop that you're going to plant. The idea behind creating a setup file is that you're really cleaning up the monitor so that operators aren't just picking and choosing things. But in that case, it really cleaned it up. So that's just a tip, I guess. So this, again, it operates very similar to all of the rest of the platform. You've got your products, your tank mixes. This, again, is a filtering tool. You can export to Excel here. You can archive items. And then to add products, it's, again, this plus symbol, very similar to the boundaries and the guidance lines. So okay, so again, I'm not going to go ahead and add anything to mess up this data here, but there's, I believe this is a US-based option that comes in. And most times I find we have to scroll right down to the bottom here and says, can't find what you're looking for, and we add a new one. So now you can call it whatever you're accustomed to calling it. Whether it's a chemical or variety, you have to toggle there. Okay, you can, same thing, pick your brand. If it's not listed, in this case, you have to find the word other. I think. Oh, maybe not. I thought it was other. Oh, right at the bottom. So both times, if you can't find what you're looking for, scroll right to the bottom, select your crop type, and then click Save, and that will add it to the list here. And the benefit of using products is that, you know, I don't know how often you see 28, like you call it 28%. Well, somebody types in the word 28, somebody calls it 28%. Like if you're, the fact is garbage in is garbage out. So after you've gone through your growing season and now you want to, you know, extract and see how much of a product you used and so forth, it makes a much more sense when you're looking at it all as one item. So that's truly all I'm going to share within products here. So now we've done everything we need to do for the setup file. Now we just have to create it. So back up to the setup tab, we go into setup file creator on the tabs across the top, or you can use the bottom buttons here. So we're going to start by selecting which monitor we're creating it for. And 2630s and Gen 4s are the same monitor, but if you're using an 1800, 2600 command center, it's a different option. You do have to give it a name. So you can create from an existing one. So if you were just, you know, you made one, you've realized you forgot something, you can add that back in. So, but in this case, we're going to create new and click start. So it starts us on the land tab here. So again, these are all the tabs we visited earlier, or tools we used earlier. Here you got it all selected. So assuming you cleaned everything up ahead of time, you can go in and just select everything. Gen 4s and 2630s behave a little bit different in this regard. You could just add a field to a Gen 4. It handles information differently. So, you know, maybe you are just sending out one in particular field, you could do that. And this filtering tool's a great help for that, because as you can see, it's a big long list of everything that's in there. But you can scroll through and make sure you got everything selected that you want. Select all crops. Now this is specific to the variety locator. So going to harvest, when you're creating a setup file, you go in and you create your variety locator. Most do it just for one in particular harvest season, but if you're doing it ahead of different harvests, then you could you know, make it specific to a crop. There are certain ones that may have multiple crops in the field, so in the last 12 months, so you have to go in and action those. But you don't have to use this at all either going into the spring. If you plan to make another setup file going into harvest, you can ignore that for now and click next. Equipment, same thing. If you've gone through and cleaned up everything you're going to be utilizing, then just check the box in this gray header and it checks all of them for you. Don't forget to toggle to the implement. That's a step that's often forgotten. It'll tell you at the end. It won't let you create your file, but just know that that's where you find it. And same thing, go ahead and create that. One thing I did just notice, they have given us a new column that wireless data transfer is enabled. So what that's saying is that we should be able to send the setup file directly from the computer to the display without having to use a USB. Okay, so we click next. Again, same with product, very similar to equipment. You've got your products and your tank mixes. Next, select your operators. This is completely an optional tool, so you don't have to utilize this. You can just skip over it if you'd like to. You can also add operators down here if you'd like, and click next. And then it gives us a summary of everything that we've got on it. And we create file. So again, I've got some pieces of equipment that I can send it directly to. Now, I will say, I remember one of these tractors wasn't connected with the communication cord, so that one's gonna not go through, but we'll just leave it for now, and we'll create without sending, and I'll show you where you can download it. And hopefully it doesn't take too long, so I can show you that here. So it's saying setup file is being created. You can go to files from here to download it, or you access it under here and files here. And this was the name of my setup file that I created, and it looks like it is ready to use. Ignore the field client and farm name that's here. It just shows one of them. It doesn't mean that that's the only one that's in there. If I didn't transfer to an equipment at that time, I can do it now. But to download it, you click download. This desktop or device doesn't work if you're wanting to download it to a USB. You need to use the John Deere Data Manager, and the reason being, it takes it from the format in the Operation Center to the display format. So we download that, and because we're in Google Chrome, it's going to be down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So once it's downloaded, you have a click. You have to click to open it there. And then Data Manager should pop up, which it is.
Once the John Deere Data Manager window has popped up, then you want to choose the target location where you save your setup file. Click this drop-down arrow here. I always browse just to be sure it is properly connecting to the right file drive, and select folder. And then once that's the right folder in place there, click transfer. Once the setup file has completely transferred to the USB, you'll see file transfer complete, and your setup file is ready to import into the display using the USB. Lastly to note, if you want to check your version here, if there is a message along the bottom that says newer software version of John Deere Data Manager is available, then I recommend downloading the most current version before completing the transfer. Thank you.